What's up, everybody? Louie back here to recap UFC Jacksonville. Right off the bat, I hit a lot of underdogs, but overall, not a good record for me. Pretty disappointing. I did very well early on, and it just kind of fell apart for me, to be honest. The first fight of the night, Cody Brundage and Cedric Dumas. I should have went with Cedric, and didn't. I just thought Cody Brundage would be a better wrestler than him, and I think that's true, but Cody Brundage took the fight on short notice, and his ring IQ is abysmal. He tried to jump the guillotine multiple times. It didn't work out. So, yeah. Cody Brundage, just could not get anything going, and Cedric got the victory. So, it was a pretty disappointing fight to watch. And then, but the second fight, featherweight, Jamal Emmers and Jack Jenkins. I'm on with Jack Jenkins, a pretty sizable underdog, and he got it done. It was a close, questionable decision. I get that, but I don't care. That you guys account for those close decisions. I've been robbed before on picks. Sometimes you're the one that robs people. That's how it works. But he was a plus 175 to Jamal Emmers, minus 205. And it was more so, I just like Jack Jenkins' tenacity. I knew he was going to be going after him the whole fight. I knew he had some clean striking, pretty good cardio. And I think he would be able to do enough to make it close. And he made it close enough to get the decision. So that was a good one for me. Then the next fight, Trevor Peek and Chepe Mariscal at 155. Looking back on this was a bad pick from me. I didn't know enough about Mariscal. He was making his UFC debut on relatively short notice. And I just thought they were going to get into a slugfest, and I was going to pick Trevor Peek. The line wasn't too bad, minus 150. But here's the thing, Mariscal has better cardio. He was able to entertain that slugfest with Trevor Peek, and he was constantly, whenever Peek was getting going, he'd be able to hit him with that hip toss. Trevor Peek did, in my research, I saw that he did have good get-up game. He was able to get up or defend, but he kept getting his momentum broken from that. And then by the third round, Trevor Peek was literally just throwing wild overhands and hammer fists, and he would just put his hands on his hips and walk back to the center. So, yeah, it was a tough one. And then, Mariscal was able to take the back at times. In the first round, he almost had that rear naked choke. And Trevor Peek's got a lot of heart, very tough fighter. He can get in there and scrap, but he just doesn't have as good a technique as Mariscal. And Trevor Peek is extremely green, and if he doesn't get a knockout in the first round, he's going to be in trouble. So that was a bad pick for me, to be honest. And then the next one at flyweight, 125 pounds, Alga Zumagulov and Joshua Van. Yeah, looking back on this, man, I should have just went with the underdog regardless, because Joshua Van, the tape I watched against Cleveland McLean and Fury FC didn't really impress me too much. And I thought his veteran experience would just be a little too much for Josh Van, especially on short notice. But Josh Van, he had very clean boxing. He was able to stay in the pocket, land some damage. He was able to take the shots at Zalgas, and he did enough to win. I didn't think it was a split decision. I thought Josh Van beat him straight up. And I don't know, I just kind of thought that with the energy, Zalgas, he was going to get a decision. But it didn't happen. Josh Van, he's got some good grappling. He was able to take the back at times. He landed some shots on the inside. He hurt Zalgas a couple times. I think it was in the second round. He had him up against the fence. He had him hurt pretty bad, was ripping the body. And he just had his moments, man. So I don't know why. I don't know why whenever I watch tape on guys that aren't fighting in the UFC, I just don't think they look good. I don't know why that is, but he looked very good. He got a tough decision against a tough veteran, and he did his thing at plus 175. I should have took him. So, yeah, I don't know. And then women's strawweight, Tabitha Ricci and Jillian Robertson. Horrible fight. Nobody really did anything. Yeah, there's not too much. Tabitha Ricci was just able to keep Jillian at range and jab her up and pieced her up and just went on the scorecards. And, Jillian Robertson, she couldn't get anything going on the ground. And she was too tentative to get in the pocket with Ricci. So Ricci just that's pretty much all that happened. So it was a tough one. Finally, I got one right at lightweight, Mateusz Rebecki and Loic Radzhabov. I didn't think it was going to be this dominant, but Mateusz Rebecki, he was just blasting him with big shots. He throws everything he throws hard. And then those leg kicks, I didn't see that coming, dude. He stumbled him with those leg kicks so bad. Radzhabov had to lean against the fence at times because he just couldn't stand up. And Mateusz Rebecki was able to put a beautiful combination together and just picked him apart, basically, and he looked really good. So, yeah, pretty easy one for me. Now, the one that really sucks at welterweight, 170 pounds, Randy Brown and Wellington Turman. Turman was a pretty sizable underdog. What was he here? Plus 200, basically. And I thought that he was going to be able to pull the upset here. I knew he was coming down from 185 to 170, but it looked okay because more like a lifestyle change at that point, and he wasn't a huge 185er anyway. First couple rounds, pretty close. Randy Brown was Randy Brown, and he was jabbing him from range, and Wellington Turman had some trouble getting in, but actually Wellington was doing well at range in the beginning. He was landing some counter 1-2s, landing some overhands, but what happened was Wellington would go for those clinch exchanges, and he would get good position. He would get the underhook or the body lock, but he wouldn't do anything with it. He tried to take him down a couple different times. Randy Brown just leaned back against the fence, couldn't get him down. First round was all Randy Brown, in my opinion, and then second round was close. But Wellington didn't do enough damage. He started landing a couple of those elbows in the clinch. So the second round was a toss-up. Then in the third round, Wellington finally started getting it going. He was in the clinch. He was landing those nasty elbows. He busted up Randy Brown's face, and he landed the bigger shots. Did more damage. Was ragdolling him against the fence. And I thought that was a clear third round win for him. And it wasn't even a split decision. They gave Randy Brown the first two rounds, Wellington Turman the third round. So that was a tough one. But like I said, Randy Brown, he does fade later on in fights. And he just kind of hung around in the third round. Didn't have nearly as much offense as the first or second round. So that was a tough one. That's the underdog I picked. Like I said, my problem is picking the wrong underdogs. And before I even watched tape, this is a fight that stuck out to me as a potential underdog. So I picked this one, and didn't work out for me. On to the main event of the prelims, 170 men's welterweight, Neil Magny and Philip Rowe. This was a no-brainer for me. I went with Neil Magny. I knew it was going to be a close fight. I thought it was going to be a classic Neil Magny fight. Basically how it went. Just a lot of clinching. Philip Rowe early on landed a couple good shots inside the pocket, but Neil Magny does what he does, and he was able to clinch him up, get him up against the fence. Phil Rowe had Neil's back against the fence early on, but as the fight progressed, Magny was able to circle out, and Neil Magny, he would be able to stalk forward, landing some straight shots, get right back into that clinch. And Neil Magny landed a lot more clean punches than I thought he would. And just got it done. A split decision. I didn't think it was a split decision. I thought it was clear. I thought it was a clear third round for Magny. Clear second round for Magny. They were close, but they were competitive, but it was clear that Neil Magny won, I think. So, that was kind of nerve-wracking picking that one. Neil Magny was only minus 170, and a little high, I guess, but I just kind of thought that that's how this fight would go. That's how it went. And Neil Magny didn't really get hurt too much, so that was good. And I thought Philip Rowe was going to win. He was going to have to hurt him pretty bad or even knock him out, and didn't happen. So, another classic Neil Magny fight. Not the most exciting fight in the world, but Neil Magny proved that he's the gatekeeper at that weight class. I believe he's number 11, which is a little higher than I thought. But Ian Garry just had a big win. He called him out before this fight even happened. So I think Neil Magny versus Ian Garry is the perfect test for Ian Garry. And if he can get past Neil Magny, then he's going to be something special in this weight class. So, yeah. Then on to the first fight of the main card at 185 pounds, men's middleweight, Brendan Allen and Bruno Silva. I took Brendan Allen all day. The price was a little too much for me, more than I liked. But I just thought Allen would get it done. Allen was supposed to fight Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson's ranked higher than Bruno Silva. I don't think Silva's even ranked. And I thought, aside from Bruno Silva knocking him out, I thought Brendan Allen would be able to get him down on the ground and submit him. And that's pretty much what happened. Bruno Silva landed a couple good shots, but in the first round, Allen, he shoots into the clinch. Bruno did a good job stuffing the takedowns, but then Bruno landed a couple big hooks, and then he hurt him with those big hooks right in the pocket. But then Allen was landing some counter hooks. Then he was able to shoot off of that when he had him hurt, but Bruno was able to stuff the takedown. But then back on the feet, Allen dropped him with the straight right, landed some ground and pound on top. And then he's able to take his back rear naked choke submission, no hooks. Perfect. There's only about 30 seconds left in the first round, I believe. So he got it done. He was very slick about it. My fear with Brendan Allen is sometimes he tries to beat guys at their own game for no good reason. And it seemed like he was going to get into a slugfest with Bruno Silva. And he kind of did. He took some shots, but he was able to eat those shots pretty well. And then once he was able to get it down to the ground, he went for the submission. So just a perfect game plan from Brendan Allen. Took a little too much damage, but, Brendan Allen's number 11 now. And you're supposed to fight Jack Hermanson, so I guess you could go along with that fight. But he got a pretty impressive victory, finishing Bruno Silva in the first round. And that Hermanson fight just really doesn't do much for me. I don't think it does much for the fans, to be honest. And Jack Hermanson's only number 10 right now. I think you could do a little better. I think Roman Dolidze would be good. Roman Dolidze is number 9. And he actually beat Jack Hermanson. And Dolidze had a pretty close fight with Martin Vettori. So if Brendan Allen could get a victory over Roman Dolidze, I think that says a lot about where he's at in the middleweight division. And I think it's a perfect matchup. I think it'll be a fun fight above all else. Both guys pretty good, have really good grappling skills. Both guys have some nasty submissions on their record. So I'd like to see that fight. Then the second fight on the main card, men's featherweight, 145 pounds. David Onama taking on Gabriel Santos. And this is one I was going back and forth on, man. I didn't trust myself. This is another underdog that I didn't get. I picked Santos, but I said bet on David Onama. And I think that there's just too many underdogs on this card that I didn't think Onama could get it done. Plus the year-long layoff gave me some questions. But I should have trusted myself. And David Onama got the victory. He got the knockout. Pretty good fight. And I think the biggest thing about this, David Onama's grappling defense got a lot better. He was able to get up, and he wasn't just ragdolled on the ground, kind of like he was against Nate Landwehr. In the first round, Santos landed a couple pull straights, pulling him in. He was landing the straight rights, and Onama was coming into him. But then Onama was able to land some counter shots, some short counter hooks, and he was able to stuff a double leg attempt. But then Santos had an armbar attempt, and then he's able to get the double leg off of there. But David Onama, he was able to stuff all those armbar attempts, and it kind of looked at the beginning, whenever Santos rolled, it looked like he was going to get that armbar attempt, but Onama was wise to it, and he stepped over his head and defended it pretty well. And then in the second round, Santos lands a back fist, and he's able to take the back of Onama down to the ground, and he had the figure 4, but David Onama, he was able to just kind of instead of like pushing the lock to one side, he was trying to swim around his head, and he was actually able to turn into his body and get on top right into full guard. And that kind of surprised me right there, honestly. I thought Santos was going to have his back for the whole round, but Onama was able to reverse the position and didn't do a ton of ground and pound. Though they get back on the feet, Santos landed some overhands, and then Onama was in the pocket, landed some elbows, and he rocked him pretty bad. Onama finally found his range in the pocket, and then he landed a front kick to an uppercut and then a right hook and gets that nasty knockout. So, yeah, pretty good. And it was those elbows from Onama. I think he landed a couple earlier on in the fight. He got it done, and just a beautiful bounce-back victory for him. I think David Onama should fight Pat Sabatini. I think it'd be great. Pat Sabatini, a very good grappler, so it might be a little much for him, but I think if you want to do anything with if David Onama wants to be anything in his weight class, he's got to fight a solid grappler like Sabatini. And Sabatini just coming off a beautiful, brutal victory, and I think it would say a lot about him. And Pat Sabatini, he got knocked out by Damon Jackson, So, you know, and then Damon Jackson got knocked out by Dan Ige. So I think if you want to stake your claim in his weight class, you should have to beat Pat Sabatini. And then if you beat him, you're kind of right in that mix of like a guy that could possibly fight. Well, I guess he lost to Nate Landwehr, but a guy that kind of like could fight around like the bottom of the top 15, a couple ranks below there, maybe like a top 20, something like that. And I think it'd be a good test for him. And, you know, Pat Sabatini, he still got knocked out. So I think there's a path of victory for him there. And I'd like to see it. I think it'd be fun. I think it could be violent. So, yeah. And then onto the feature fight of the night at heavyweight, 265 pounds. What a fight. Justin Tafa and Austin Lane. I went with Justin Tafa. Justin Tafa was minus 200, a little much for my liking, but I picked him. But it doesn't matter because there was an eye poke. Nothing really happened in the fight. Tafa was looking for those overhands. And then Tafa like threw an overhand in his head, was coming forward, and Austin Lane was trying to cut off. And he had his fingers extended, and Tafa's his eyeballs went right into Austin Lane's fingers. So nothing happened. Thank God they did not send him back out there because the finger went so deep he was bleeding. So hopefully they can do it another day. Co-main event of the night, 125 pounds women's flyweight. Amanda Ribas taking on Maycee Barber. I went with Maycee Barber just based on it is higher level women's MMA, but it's still women's MMA. Take the underdog. Maycee Barber was a sizable underdog, plus 160. I just thought, and she's very young, I thought she would just make some giant improvements, or it was possible at least, and she did. And I knew she was tenacious, and she hits hard, and wow, I did not expect her to be this dominant. It was back and forth. Ribas landed some damage as well, but she just overperformed any expectations I or most people could have had. And it was a hell of a fight. I thought it could arguably be fight of the night. People think Trevor Peek fight was. I don't know. I thought this fight was better, to be honest, because they didn't get tired. And it was all action for two. It only lasted 2 rounds, but hell of a fight, man. First round, Ribas was landing some straight rights. She presses forward, but Maycee was countering with some 1-2s. And then Ribas was able to get the clinch. Maycee was able to defend, was utilizing those underhooks. She had her back against the fence. She was digging those underhooks. She knew what to do, but then Ribas hit her with that headlock kind of out of nowhere. And Maycee, each time it happened, Maycee almost ruled through, but couldn't really get it. But then first time, Maycee was able to get up off of that, so it didn't get stuck on the ground or anything. But then Maycee landed a left body kick. Left hook to the body and then a right hook to the head. And then she's able to get the body lock lift, and she was able to defend the leg locks. I think that was Ribas' fatal flaw there. She rolled for a leg lock, and Maycee was able to keep her weight over top of her head and just punch her a bunch. Like, landed some big shots. Ended that first round very strongly. It was still pretty competitive up until that point. Maycee just stole that round, did a lot of damage. Then the second round, Ribas was landing some straight shots. Maycee was countering with some overhands. She's able to clinch. She's able to get the underhooks, but then Ribas hit her with the headlock again. Ribas landed some ground and pound, but then Maycee was able to wall walk, scoot all the way up, her back up against the fence, get out of there. Just good. Like, she stayed calm, kept her composure, and she did all the right things. And then Ribas was pressing forward with some straight shots, but then Maycee landed some head kicks, rocked her with a straight right, and then a body kick. And then she landed an overhand, followed by overhand right, followed by a 1-2. And then Ribas grabbed her leg. It was a desperation shot. Then Maycee just unloaded with elbows, was able to put her hips in, kind of get into half guard position, and just unleash a nasty elbow barrage. And they were both bloody messes. They broke each other's nose, I guess, but Ribas was just gushing blood. It was very violent, most violent fight of the night, and it was awesome. And that was like a big test for Barber, and she got it done. Now, going in, I kind of knew Ribas was smaller. She fought at 115, and then Maycee, she's pretty big for 125, so that was another thing that factored into my decision. And yeah, and honestly, I thought maybe Maycee would get like a close, squeaky decision like she's been getting, but she's turned a corner. She is a force to be reckoned with, and she surprised a lot of people. definitely made a statement at this weight class, and flyweight is an interesting spot right now. We'll see what happens with Grasso and Shevchenko. But Maycee Barber, she was number 11. They moved her up to number 8, and I mean, right above her, number 7, Lauren Murphy. I mean, I think she kind of rules over Lauren Murphy, to be honest. So I think that's a good one right there. And then Jessica Andrade is going to fight Tatiana Suarez. Or no, not 125. Sorry, Jessica Andrade is not. I don't know what Jessica Andrade is doing, but I wouldn't have her fight Jessica Andrade. Maycee Barber, Lauren Murphy, kind of like a stay busy fight and kind of see where she's at, because Mignon Farrow is going to fight Rose. Rose is coming into the weight class. Aaron Blanchfield is probably going to fight the winner for the title, I would assume, either that or Tyler Santos. So I think Lauren Murphy's perfect. And honestly, I think Maycee Barber beats Lauren Murphy without too much trouble. So I would go take out the number 7 lady, make a big statement, get another finish, and I think you're on your way. So I would do that. And, dude, women's flyweight used to be boring, and honestly, I think it's more exciting than 150 right now. So I'm very excited to see where this weight class goes. The main event at 145 pounds, men's featherweight, you had Josh Emmett taking on Ilia Topuria. I picked Topuria. I said bet on Emmett, but, you know, there's always a chance that Emmett could knock somebody out. It just didn't happen. Emmett landed a bunch of kind of big shots as the fight went on, but Topuria's defense was too good. He never took it full flush, and Topuria was just able to use his range, stay on the outside, pick Emmett apart, and you heard him a couple different times throughout the fight. But Emmett put up a hell of a performance, showed a ton of heart. He's an older guy. He's probably on his way out pretty soon, but he did not want to give up, and it showed, and it was a pretty good fight. First round, Emmett just kind of presses forward with some overhands. He started off pretty aggressively, but then Ilia kept that high guard, and he stays at range, just jabs and lands some straights whenever Emmett comes in. Emmett was like just loading up with these overhands, and they were just too short, and you could see. And Emmett never got his wrestling going, which I thought he would try to. Never shot a takedown, so that was pretty surprising from him. But he was landing some, but Emmett landed some short counter hooks and then a left hook off of Ilia's overhands, but Topuria was landing a nice counter left hook off of Emmett's overhands, and, you know, Emmett was getting touched up pretty early. But then in the second round, Ilia was landing some more straights. Josh was sliding in. He landed some overhands in the pocket, but again, Topuria was aware. He's pretty defensively responsible. Ilia drops him with the right cross, and then a 1-2 off of Emmett's overhand where he loaded up a little too much. But then Josh was able to get back up, and then Josh splits in the pocket, but then Ilia drops him with another short right hook. Then in the third round, Ilia just turns up the jabs, lands even more jabs, starts increasing his volume. Then he presses in the pocket. They both kind of throw hooks, but then Ilia's landing on the end of them, and Emmett's punches are a little too short. They're not getting there. But then Josh is landing some lefts and some overhands in there, but again, they're just clipping them basically. And then Ilia hurts him with a straight counter to his overhands. And then in the fourth round, Ilia's jabbing Emmett more. He started throwing in some hooks to the body, and then he hurts him with the leg kicks. They were really chewed up. You could see one instance, Emmett puts all of his, he was like squatting down, and he put all of his weight, and then as soon as he did that, Topuria just blasted him with a leg kick. Pretty nasty. And then Ilia was able to drop him with a short left hook, and then a counter uppercut, and then he just jumped on him. He was going for the kill. He was unleashing everything he had. Topuria wanted to finish him so bad, and Emmett was just able to like roll at the right time. And the ref told him, like the ref was about to stop it, and then he would just like kind of move and he'd kind of try to buck him off of him, and just survived as long as he could, and survived the fourth round. And there's a conversation, should we send him out for the fourth round? And Josh Emmett said, hell yeah. So they fought a fifth round, and honestly, dude, I thought Emmett was winning the fifth round until Topuria got that takedown. But in the fifth round, Emmett was landing some left hooks to the body, and then he landed some overhands. And he actually kind of hurt him. And you could see Topuria was like pressing him, and then he just kind of backed all the way up to the cage. It wasn't like he rocked him or anything, but you could tell he hurt him, and Topuria stayed off him. That was pretty surprising. But then he was landing some step-in overhand rights, but then Ilia just hits that blast double. It was just a matter of time. And then Ilia wasn't attacking him as much as the first 4 rounds, because he literally gave him everything he had. He knew he couldn't get him out of there, so he was just kind of waiting for that blast double, unfortunately. But then he takes his back. Emmett tries to stand up, tries to go for the Granby, but then Ilia grabs that cross wrist. lands a little bit of ground and pound, and just kind of rides it out. So, yeah, fun fight. Wasn't very compelling until the 5th round, and then Topuria got that takedown, and that was it. But yeah, good test for Topuria. Josh Evans is a very tough guy. We got to see Topuria go 5 rounds. What happens when you can't get a guy out of there early on? We got the answers to those questions, and Topuria striking looked very clean. So I'm excited. I guess he's going to get a title shot next. You got Yair and Volk fighting in a couple weeks for the title. That makes sense. Max Holloway's fighting the Korean Zombie. And Volk needs contenders. Unless you want to have Topuria fight Arnold Allen, and then the winner of that fight gets a title shot no matter what, you could do that. I guess it just depends on everybody's schedules. But, yeah, I mean, I think he looked good enough to get a title shot, especially if Volk needs contenders. Why not? Brian Ortega's hurt. Calvin Kattar's hurt. So, who knows what Giga Chikadze's doing. So, yeah. And then they moved Topuria up to number 5. So, number 4 is Arnold Allen. They might do that one. But I don't know if you risk it at this point. But, I mean, they could do that fight because either guy wins, you'll get a title shot. And Allen had a close fight to Max Holloway. It's not like he got blown out of the water. So maybe they should do that one. But I think the schedule's not going to line up. And Volk wants a contender right now. So we'll see what happens. But, featherweight, be finally getting some new contenders in featherweight. Just keep them away from Max Holloway. And I should be good. But overall, I thought it was a pretty fun card. The prelims were pretty boring. Not boring, but they were just dragging on so long. There was about 8 fights. Every fight was a decision pretty much. But then the main card, everybody came to bring it on the main card, being on ABC. I thought it was awesome. I think Brendan Allen surprised a lot of people. He did not need to take that Breno Silva fight. It was kind of risky. David Onama gets a big comeback victory after being off. People had a lot of questions about him. He can knock anybody out. And then Maycee Barber, I mean, that was just her breakthrough performance right there. She's for real with that weight class, and it was awesome to see. And then Ilia Topuria, he's the guy that everybody thought he was. So he was able to prove himself and pass the test. Next weekend, we got Sean Strickland taking on Abus Magomedov. A very weird matchup. So we'll see what happens at 185. And then you got Dricus Du Plessis and Robert Whittaker. So should be fun. But bad week again. It's embarrassing, but it is what it is, man. I just got to trust myself, and there's some underdogs that I should have taken, man. I'm either not taking enough underdogs or taking too many underdogs. It's kind of the same thing, so it sucks, but I just got to focus in, and, Jack Jenkins, good underdog. Should have took him, and then, somebody like Zhalgas Zhumagulov, I shouldn't have looked at it oh, he's owed a fight, or he's not. He's due for a fight. He's going to win. It's just he loses close split decisions. Go for Joshua Van, even though. And I think I got to take a second look at the people that are making their UFC debuts, because for whatever reason, I just don't think the tape of them looks that good. I don't know why. So maybe I need to go back and watch a couple more clips of these guys. And don't sleep on these UFC debutants, because they're coming to bring it. So. But we'll see you guys next weekend. Thanks.